Our next speaker to take us up to morning tea, a man who has worked designing offensive counter-defence for organisations as diverse as defence departments, national intelligence agencies, hospitals and schools. His good friends call him Dr. Chaos, talking about spies, geeks and tracking using threat intelligence to hunt for data. Aamir Lakhani from Fortinet.
Excellent. How's everyone doing today? Hi. So really appreciate the invite. I flew all the way here from Dallas, Texas to speak to you guys about spies, geeks, and tracking. So before I get started, let me just introduce myself. My name's actually Aamir. Just ignore everything you know about spelling and grammar. Everyone makes that mistake. That's okay. I'm a hacker by trade. That's what I do. I actually hack things for a living. I started my career off as a penetration tester, as an offensive security specialist, hacking. Since then, I've written a few books on hacking. I've been involved in a number of different open source projects. All my books, if you buy them, they actually all go to charity. They go to Hackers for Charity. I know we're all security guys in here, and you'll probably just download my books off BitTorrent. That's what normally happens. That's okay, I guess. So I say I'm a hacker by trade. I actually have a really interesting family history. I'm actually related to a prince, and I'm actually related to a real-life pirate as well. I'm related to the pirate Barbossa, believe it or not. So a real-life blood relative, and I always say I'm a ninja in training. Honestly, I'm here to answer the same question I think all of you are here to answer. How would a ninja pirate hacker look like? I know it's not going well so far. That's okay. I'm working on it. I'm going to hit the gym. All right. I think what I'm really proud of, guys, is if you don't recognize me, I did win Times Person of the Year in 2006. I was actually on the cover of that magazine. Here it is. Really, really proud of that. So appreciate that if you guys recognize me. Now, before I get started, I had an opportunity a few years ago to talk to the former director of the FBI, Robin Mueller. And he said there's two types of people out there, those that have been hacked and those that will be hacked. I actually told him I actually think there's two types of people out there, those that have been hacked and really those that have been hacked and just don't know it yet. Now, if you think about it, like when I do breach investigations, I'm not normally a speaker. I actually go out and do investigations and help our customers with breaches. And when I do that, I usually find most attackers are in networks for about 200 days. At least that's the average I saw in the last 15 breaches or so that I saw in the investigations that I did. Now, if you think about an attacker in your house for 200 days while you're sleeping, eating, breathing, that's insane, but that's what's going on in the real world. Our data is very insecure. I always hear about like all these numbers people throw out about data, but I wanted to see how insecure data really was. I decided to purchase them as a project, just as a pet project. Now at Fortinet, we do all these different projects as reverse engineering, at looking at malware, looking at attack campaigns. And that's great, but I wanted to see how much I could hack without doing any hacking at all. I just wanted to buy old hardware and see all the data that we leave behind in our lives that we don't really think about. I always heard about people buying old hardware, I heard about talks, but I never really knew anyone that did it, so I was like, let me do it and see what happens. And here's the story. Now, I just realized I spelled engineering wrong, but I'm going to say that's how we spell it in Texas, so that's okay. As a pet project, what I ended up doing was I ended up wanting to see what kind of data we left behind. So I decided to buy about 10 hard drives and about 4 mobile phones. Now, on the 10 hard drives that I bought, I actually found, I targeted individuals. I went to eBay and I targeted companies that were reselling hardware. In fact, I found one company that was specialized in reselling old government hardware. So I was like, oh, this should be pretty clean, right? I mean, you shouldn't find really too much stuff out there. I was really surprised. In fact, if you find a hard drive with term papers, pornography, and malware, you can pretty much bet it came from a college computer. Right? I also found mobile phones, and mobile phones, I thought, once you hit the erase button, they're gone, everything's gone. But I was able to reconstruct text messages, voicemails, as well as just auto logins to apps as well, and I was really surprised about that. Now, I didn't spend a lot of money doing this. I only spent like $600, like out of my own personal funds doing this. And one of the hard drives that I purchased actually came from a high school student, and it was forensically clean. The data was completely erased. I knew it was a high school student because he actually called me up or emailed me and said, hey, I forensically cleaned my drive. I just want to make sure you can use it. I was like, that's awesome. The drives that I found from an IT reseller, they really weren't cleaned too well. In fact, I was actually targeting, like I was looking for that IT reseller, the IT guy that was offloading equipment, maybe trying to make some money on the side and hoping I would find some stuff. Let's talk about the mobile phones themselves. Now on the iPhones, one of the iPhones was an older version of an iPhone. I was able to get some interesting information. The other iPhone was a newer version, really wasn't able to get anything out of that. But on the Android devices, some really cool information. I used a tool called Blade, and I was able to essentially restore the drive and get login information and personal information. I also found in the US we have what we call IMEI numbers. Those are serial numbers for mobile phones. And we have a national blacklist for phones that are stolen. All the phones I purchased actually ended up were on that blacklist as stolen. Everyone worked fine on any carrier, not a problem. I think carriers might be more interested in selling you the service than actually working and blocking the phones. Now, one interesting thing is, on one of the phones that I found, I actually was able to get the person's location information by doing a restore. Your iPhone and Android phones are completely tracking you all the time, physically. In fact, if you go to frequent locations on your phone, you might find this turned on. And what you'll probably find is your location on places that you've gone to at work and at home. Android is the exact same way. It's always tracking your information as well. I was like, how does this happen, right? And I just wanted to search for common flashlight apps. I wanted to see how bad apps were. So I just did a search, and you can do the same search on your phone and just search for flashlight apps. We probably all have a flashlight app, and this is the top results that came up. When we actually start looking at the permissions on these applications, I wonder why our flashlight apps actually need precise GPS locations and the ability to install software. Yes, this turned out to be malware in the Android Play Store. Now, during the course of this investigation, I just couldn't play around. I had a day job as well. And law enforcement came to me and said, hey, we're tracking a criminal. He's using a burner phone. And while I was doing this project, I said, I wonder what I could do with social media apps and social apps that automatically upload information on your device. So all I had was a phone number, and I decided to put that in my contacts. And then I downloaded apps like Instagram and Facebook. And when you launch these apps, they nicely ask you, do you want to upload your contacts to see if you know anyone? I said yes, and of course I found the person's profile on the burner phone. In fact, you can go to Facebook and say, I lost my password, put in a phone number if someone's phone number is associated with that, and you get their profile information. The person doesn't get any notification or anything because you're not resetting the password, but you do see their picture and their profile. Now the hard drives, this was interesting, and the bad thing about this presentation is what can I leave out that's appropriate? Right? I use tools called like FTK Imager and other tools as well. And I ended up finding a hard drive from an IT company that resold hard drives from government agencies. And these are some of the things that I found on the hard drives. Someone's social security number, driver's licenses, tax information, of course, internet history. Just imagine if your internet history got out there, this may be more, yours may be more embarrassing. And of course, if you look at their directory listings, a lot of interesting information like login information, affiliate information, and yes, she even had the greatest lesbian movies ever made, right, as a CSV file. If anyone wants that, I will be around afterwards in our booth. I have a copy of that. Movies, yeah. Though that was only the CSV file, not too many movies on there. What I also found is like applications these days like that we download on our phones. And PhotoBucket was a good example. If you have PhotoBucket and you download that on your phone, it automatically uploads all your recent photos that you take from your camera roll publicly. If you do a Google search to PhotoBucket recent uploads, you will see everyone's recent uploads. And you'll quickly spot out some people didn't intend to have their uploads automatically uploaded. And PhotoBucket is just one example. There's other examples out there as well. I did contact PhotoBucket, ask them to change this, as well as some other sites as well. But you can still go to PhotoBucket, and you'll learn your techniques. You'll learn how to click on someone's profile and tab open, because if you go back, you'll be at the beginning of the profile. So you'll waste a lot of time. Let's just say if you start doing this, your life is over. You're going to spend a lot of weekends just going through people's profiles. Now, before you ask if I saw something on PhotoBucket uploaded that wasn't intended to be there, yes, I did. Anything you can think of, I found, including people taking showers with horse heads on them. It was like weird stuff, right? There are things I will never be able to unsee in my life doing this, and it's awful. For example, if you grow drugs, apparently it's very popular to take pictures of your weed. You have to do that. This guy actually took a lot of pictures of his weed. And of course, he was really proud of it, so he took pictures of his money that he was making from all his weed as well. I was like, man, who does this? But I didn't have to guess, because he did take a picture of his welfare check, his government employee check, right? With his name, address, and everything else on him. My buddy in law enforcement was like, this is very interesting. Can I get a copy of those pictures? A few days later, I did not see his profile on PhotoBucket anymore. Now, here's some other examples that I found. I found people taking pictures of their money, right? Pictures of money and beer, and pictures of baby money and beer sometimes. I was like, what's going on? I wasn't too sure. I had to actually call law enforcement, but I started noticing a theme over several weekends. And the theme that I noticed was on Friday nights, I saw people taking pictures of money, I think before they were going out. Saturday mornings, money and beer. And Sunday, money, beer, and babies. And it actually happened on multiple profiles, like 20, 30 profiles. So not really too sure what was going on there. Now, ever since banking applications became popular, we're all taking pictures of our checks and of our credit cards. And there's so many pictures I found of people's credit cards, right? Just taking pictures. And I was able to get the full number on them. Now, what else do I need? I just can't use the numbers. A lot of times I need the back of the card as well. Luckily, they took pictures of the back of the card, right? That's great. So now I can go shopping, right? I got the front of the card, the back of the card. I need the address. Luckily, almost everyone had their address in their profiles as well. So, time to go shopping, right? I like this slide because it pretty much has it all, right? I mean, this guy took, and there were multiple pictures of people taking pictures of their money, beer, tax forms. I did blur this slide out because you really could see all his information out there. But there was so many examples of this. It almost got nuts. I was like, okay, I got to stop here. Now, I will tell you, next example is probably the wrong way to get a date, all right? Because I found one person online, and she had a picture that said, "Don't judge me." And it was kind of hard not to judge her, because she was actually a really famous actress, a Hollywood actress. And she also had all her tax returns online as well. So I was like, man, I got to do something for this. So I actually found her on Facebook. I made friends with her on Facebook, and I was like, hey, I know you. I know all your information. Don't worry, it's okay. I'm a security researcher. I've been on CNN, right? I know OJ's been on CNN, but that's okay. I'm not a killer or anything. You can trust me, right? And I do consider this a win, because I do not have a restraining order against me from this person. But she did defriend me pretty fast on Facebook. That's about all I can tell you on that story. At the end of the day, I didn't spend too many time. I spent about 7 hours doing this, and I found social security numbers. I found credit card information with full credit card, front, back addresses. But more importantly, I found login information to some very important organizations, including government organizations and Fortune 500 companies out there. I found all other types of info about personal information that I could use for identity theft and other things if I wanted to. Now, honestly, I have this picture on here because a good friend of mine, Johnny Long, actually once told me that any legitimate hacker is going to have a picture of cats in his security presentation. So I have a picture of my cat. That's my quota for my cat presentation. But the other thing I wanted to do is, when I'm talking about simple hacking, I always hear about people scanning the internet. Guys like H.D. Moore and guys like just scanning the internet. I was like, I wonder what I can find just scanning the internet. Let's not even scan the internet. Let's just scan my neighborhood. This IP address range you see is my neighborhood, or was my neighborhood. And I just use an anonymous FTP scanner just to look for open FTP. What I was surprised about is a lot of home routers, when you plug in a USB hard drive, they automatically open up an anonymous FTP server and make it available to the internet. Some of them only do that when you download their mobile app. Other ones do it in other reasons as well. But I was able to just scan anonymous FTP, and I found a whole bunch of cool things. Now, first of all, I do want to point out, if anyone remembers the show Thundercats, I was a big fan, right? Okay? All right, awesome. I was a big fan of Thundercats. I found every episode on my friend's, on one of my neighbor's hard drive of every Thundercats episode. I will tell you, that show is definitely not as good as I remembered it to be. I was like, good Lord, what was I watching there? But I found all these other things. I found personal information, anything that people were putting on their hard drives, including backups. But what was interesting was, I really wasn't the first person to find this either. Other people had found it as well, and they were leaving messages and having fun with my neighbors. For example, I found one neighbor who had all his movies deleted from his personal hard drive and a note left for him saying, "We deleted your movies because of the Copyright Act." I was like, wow, that's some good hackers, some nice people out there, right? But it didn't meet this guy, who actually went to the trouble of writing a legitimate-looking letter with the correct IP address, the correct path, and everything else, saying that he's deleting one of my neighbor's files based on Homeland Security, based on his authority on Homeland Security, right? Imagine walking up to your hard drive and seeing everything deleted and saying that because of the Patriot Act, the US government is deleting all your files. Grandma would definitely be a little scared. Now, I always look at this, and my colleagues, when I said I wanted to talk about this, they're like, that's great, Aamir. Fortinet is an enterprise security company. What the heck does this have to do with enterprise security? Well, it's everything, because a lot of times when we see security breaches, it's not the sophisticated breaches that get us. Those are hard to defend. We know those are really hard to defend, but it's just the little breaches, the things that we need to do every day. Now, I'm not going to do a vendor talk. I know this is sponsored talk, but it's all about the information that you have and how active you are in looking at that information. And that's what we try and do, right? We try and spread that information and try and make you aware of that information. Now, I can talk to you in detail if you come to our booth about how I was able to find criminal organizations and other zero-day attacks and new malware on these hard drives that we had never found before. That was the kind of cool things. But I always say it's all about visibility. And the example I give, and it really doesn't matter what vendor you're using or who you're using, right? It's all about visibility and what you can do with that visibility. In 1666, Isaac Newton invented the prism. And he was the first one that found out that light, visible light, sunlight was more than just white light. It was made up of multiple colors. And it was the first time we knew that. But it wasn't until the 1800s, until Joseph van Fraunhofer, always get that name mixed up, invented the spectroscope. And the spectroscope was the first time we found out that light had application. It had action. That light could be separated and it could be used for devices like MRIs and X-rays. We always say without action, without visibility, you have to have action. Intelligence and action has to go together. So, not only got a couple of minutes left, but I just do want to point out one thing, especially from being from Texas and being from the US, I do have to just apologize to you guys. I'm really sorry. It wasn't my fault. It started off as a joke. We all thought it was a joke. Turns out it wasn't, right? But since I'm up here, I might as well apologize for a few other things, right? Kanye, right? And reality TV. You know you love it, right? I've seen some of those Aussie shows, so, but I do apologize for that as well. All right, thank you. I really appreciate your time.
A couple of quick questions, Aamir. Who was your favourite Thundercat?
Lino, man. You have to always wanted to be that little kid that grew up really strong and buff, and I think I'm almost there.
Anyway, you spoke mainly about personal data and devices there. Does it have straight up applications to the larger scale corporate world, that sort of stuff as well?
Absolutely. So what we're finding is that the personal data, that's where people kind of notice when data is missing. I always say, the example that I give about corporate security is Target, and I used this example with a few people last night. Target in the U.S. was the first time we had a major organization that was breached with a credit card breach. Now, my mom had never been breached with a credit card, and she got a letter in the mail saying, hey, my credit card is stolen. I need a new credit card. She's like, I never want to shop at Target again. I just don't want to do it. And I always used to tell Mom, you don't have to worry about Target. They probably have better corporate security now than anyone else, right? But I always tell people you don't want to argue with Mom. Especially if you're Indian, you do not argue with Mom. You just don't do it, right? Or she'll like pull your ear, right? But we started noticing Target as a corporation, as an organization, their reputation started decreasing. Their sales started decreasing. They're doing a lot better now. But when data is personal and you do relate data to personal, then it's a lot easier for me to talk to enterprises and CEOs and CISOs around why this data may affect them and their business and their enterprise.
Give him a big round of applause, Dr. Chaos, Aamir Lakhani.
Thank you.
Well done, Aamir.
Thanks.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Wonderful stuff. Okay, that breaks us now for morning tea, after which we're going to have parallel streams. We do come back for one big common keynote in the afternoon. We'll see you all for that. Another round of applause, please, for Aamir and Darren. Great way to kick off the morning.